I just had this thought. This is important. I saw a comment about a caterpillar the other day, and I was getting in my car, and there was a caterpillar sitting on my car. And I just kind of gazed. It was sitting there, and I was just kind of looking at it. And it took off and came right at me, and I leaned back and turned at the same time, thinking it was just going to go straight and miss me. And I think it did miss me. But then the thought was, okay, the born-again saints have gifts, spiritual gifts, but some of those gifts make us a little bit too independent because we think we're strong and we can fight the devil or whatever, because the devil's a defeated foe. And really what happens is sometimes those spiritual gifts give you pride, you know. And I think God sends the stronger, as you grow, God sends stronger opponents, the ops. God will send stronger opposition, so that you pray more, that you're more dependent on God. So I faced off with something this year, and I thought, this is off the roof. I had to take 2 months just to recover. I was thinking, this is hard to believe that this is really happening. And as soon as you say, Lord, this is a little bit stronger than I've seen before, and you start to pray, and then everything starts to fall away, and the truth comes out, and everything, the light comes on. So my point is, sometimes he sends you a strong battle or warfare or situation that you have to pray. Because if you think you can do it on your own, even though you got the spiritual gifts, or you got physical gifts, or you got health or knowledge or wisdom, but sometimes you still have to pray, you know. It might be true like people writing programs and stuff, or starting a business, or pushing to whatever it is, pushing to the next level. You're going to have to pray, right? And so I was thinking about how the spiritual gifts, I actually can see the next 24 hours right here now, you know. Sometimes I can see the next 2 hours or next 30 seconds, or sometimes it's right at I'm like, it's happening as I'm thinking it, you know. And some of these spiritual gifts that you get as a believer, it can make you prideful and forget to pray and depend on God, you know. It might be, you might know how to make money, you know. You might know how to make a lot of money, but if you're dependent on yourself, he's going to have to remind you. Start a business, run a business, whatever it is. If you're totally dependent on yourself, he's going to have to send you a stronger battle. Some people can't handle but so much. And you look at that person, say, that's easy. That's an easy battle. That's just because they haven't grown to the next level. But then you just look at some people and they say, that's a terrible battle. How did you make it through that? I had somebody ask me one time, how'd you make it through that? I said, what are you talking about? By faith. Every day. So my pride was, okay. My pride back in August last year, I said, I'm going to just take a year off. I've seen every battle. And then God sent a stronger battle that I've ever seen. Strongest battle I've ever seen. And it really was the same, but it was just cloaked in a it was really the same battles, but it was just cloaked. It was cloaked so good. It's kind of like go back to the Garden of Eden, and you're looking at Eve, and you're saying, Eve, how could you be so stupid to believe the devil? You're just looking at her and saying, why would you believe that lie? And then you teleport back to 2025, and the devil comes up in a different form to try to create a lie, an illusion. and you fall into it. And you go back to Genesis 3 and you talk to Eve and say, Eve, yeah, I understand now. The illusions are so masterful, or they think they are. Even though you saw through it, but you didn't want to believe it, you know. It's so bizarro land. You did, you know, Adam was not deceived. Eve was in the deception. But you can have compassion on Eve because the deceptions are so great. It just kind of boggles the mind. And so when you see somebody and it's so obvious what they're doing, and it's so obvious by their words, but you still don't want to believe it because their acting skills are really good. They're shape-shifting actors. They're so good at putting on an act, putting on a front, that you're like, are you even for real? Everything out of your mouth, you sound like a criminal, you sound like a psychopath, you sound like a narcissist, you sound like a spoiled brat, you sound like a selfish person. You sound like a master manipulator, but you're putting on like you're not any of these, but everything out of your mouth is saying you are. But then you're putting on like you're not. And you're just like, how's that even possible? They know what they are, but they're trying to get you to believe, to go against your intuition, right? You're sitting there saying, I played this game of chess 1,000 times. And it's hard to believe that you're playing chess against somebody who's like playing checkers, but they sit there and act like they're good at chess when they're playing checkers. And you're sitting there like, you're saying that you can play chess, but I'm looking at you playing checkers. I'm playing chess, and you're trying to make it sound like you're on the same level playing field, and it blows your mind that they can keep putting the lie out there to try to get you to believe it. And you're like, and then they try all these different things, and then eventually they try to project it onto you what they're doing. And you're like shaking your head like, what in the world? And so when you look back at Eve being deceived by the devil in Genesis 3, you can have compassion on her because some of the deceptions, they're right in your face and you're calling them out on it and they're saying, no, this is the reason. And it's like neuro-linguistic programming is what it is. And that neuro-linguistic programming is because you want to see the good in the other person, and they know that you want to see the good because most people want to see the good in a person. And so the psychopath knows that you can't imagine how evil they really are, so they project onto them what you want them to be. And it's like, is this even real? Is this really happening? Are they for real? And is this for real? Can this really be happening? And you're shaking your head thinking, this is impossible. I've read about it in Genesis 3. I've read about it when Jesus is in the wilderness and the devil came and tried to deceive Jesus. I've read about it where people were pulled into a trap to either be killed or steal, kill, and destroy, right? I've read about it, but is this really happening? And you're like, you tell them that you see them, but they still deny it. And you're like, I see what you're doing. Why are you still playing the game? And they still deny it. It's like, okay. And the only thing I can remember is about 20 years ago, watching an interview with one of those serial killers, and it's like they lie. They're so good at lying. And I watched a guy watching a video of them interviewing that was serial killer, and the guy took charge. He was guilty, but he flipped it around back on the other people like they're guilty for even asking him questions. And so it's kind of like dealing with a Hitler. So Hitler is so evil, but he convinced the whole nation to follow him. And he could have been deceived, to be honest with you. Hitler could have been deceived by somebody or possessed. He was possessed, right? And we could be we could be hearing a fake story about that, because unless you were there, you hardly believe history, you know. We don't even know if any of it was real. I guess it was. But the object lesson is still there. Whether it was real or not, it don't matter. He convinced the whole nation to follow his evil ways. And it's kind of like if you have a snake stand right in front of you, and they are a snake, but they're convincing you that they're a nice little innocent baby, a nice little innocent, helpless little child, but it's a snake, and they know they're going to bite you, a scorpion or whatever. They're going to sting you, bite you, cut your throat, whatever it is. But you're facing off with a snake, but the snake is saying, no, that's not what I am. I know it might sound that way to you because blah, 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 or you might misunderstood, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but I'm asking you nicely, what's going on? Why are you cursing? Why are you mad? Why are you saying GD and GD this? If you're such an innocent person, why are you so mad at the world? Why are you so angry? Why can't you have a normal, healthy conversation? It's wild stuff. It's kind of crazy. So God has to send stronger battles to wake you up that you're still dependent on Him, even if He gives you great gifts, great spiritual gifts. You still got to depend on God, you know, in all your decisions, because the devil ain't playing games. Even though he's a defeated foe, he wants you to be prideful. He's a defeated foe because of what Jesus did. But if you try to go against him, instead of saying, Lord, what is this? Then he will defeat you. And eventually I said, Lord, in a situation I was in, I said, Lord, make it so clear, please, that nobody could miss it. And then within 4 hours, 5, maybe 6 hours, within 6 hours, he made it so clear that I was convinced that this person was full of shite. Full of shite. I knew it, but I wanted to, before I made my final decision, I wanted to be sure I was making my right decision. And I was prayed to God, and He made it clear. But I was still straddling the fence. Can this situation be? Can this even be real? Is it real? Is it not real? Real? Not real. What is this? And it was like, okay, all right. I'm gonna get in the Word and I'm gonna pray to God. And okay, it's not real. He made it, Lord, make it so clear. It's not real. It's fake. It was fake. You knew it was fake, but you needed God to confirm it. But God was showing you the whole time. He allowed you to go through it. He knew what you were going to go through.